Hello, welcome to my channel. Here I make videos related to teaching, and today's video is about safeguarding rules. So whether you're applying as a teaching assistant or applying for your PGCE with universities, you should be aware about the safeguarding rules. Now, safeguarding rules is a whole document about this, which is like around 100 pages, but I have summarized it into a few slides, particularly keeping in mind the type of questions that are asked in interview, because in interview there are a few questions that are given more importance over the other questions. So these information is extremely important. Whatever I am going to show you today is extremely important. It is highly necessary that you know at least this from the 100 pages document about safeguarding rules. So starting with the first thing in safeguarding, then you might not really remember this. So, but for your information, you have to remember a few words like recognizing, responding, recording, and reporting. You might not remember it, but at the end of this video, you will definitely know what it is. And one more point that I want you to remember on this slide is that safeguarding and welfare of children is everybody's responsibility. Another term that I want you to remember is designated safeguarding lead. I'm going to repeat this twice because this is an extremely important term. Designated safeguarding lead. Who is a designated safeguarding lead? The designated safeguarding lead is the person that you will go to in case if you feel that a child is being abused or is being neglected. What kind of abuse and neglect, we are going to see it later, but you have to remember that the DSL or the designated safeguarding lead is your go-to person in a school to whom you have to report in case if you have found that the child is being neglected or is being abused. On this slide, the only thing I want you to remember is that everyone has the responsibility to safeguard children. In a school, all the stakeholders, whether it's the teaching staff or the non-teaching staff or the head teacher, the principal, everybody around, the parents, and everybody around, safeguarding the child is everybody's responsibility. 4 core competencies of safeguarding. Very important is recognition. So this is the first slide that we saw. It is important. Recognition. Recognition is to recognize the physical injuries, the emotional or behavior change in a student. If there is a sign of neglect, like the child has poor hygiene or is constantly hungry, disclosure from the child or things that I overhear that raise concern. So the child himself or herself comes and talks to you about an abuse or a neglect, or you overhear it from someone or somewhere. This is recognition. You are recognizing the abuse or the neglect the child is going through. Either the child tells you directly, or you are yourself identifying it through a physical injury or an emotional or behavioral change. So after recognition, what are you going to do? Once you recognize that the child is in trouble, the next thing that you do is recording. Now, recording is extremely important. You have to record everything along with the date, time, and the context. So the interviewer might ask you that what are you going to do if the child comes and complains about a neglect or an abuse? So the first thing that you will mention is that I will record it. And how will I record it? With the date, time, and context. And you will record it verbatim as the child has raised the concern. You will not do any personal opinion. You will not assume anything. So you will avoid. You will just write word to word what the child has said. And once you do that, you will keep this information secure with you and share it with whom? Who was your go-to person? The designated safeguarding lead. After recording, yes, of course, you have to report it. You will record it verbatim as the child has said. In similar manner, you will just write it on a paper without any personal assumptions. And then who are you recording it to? Once again, the designated safeguarding lead. You will contact them directly and urgently. What if the DSL is unavailable? If the DSL is unavailable, then you will go to the deputy safeguarding lead. So somebody who is an assistant to the designated safeguarding lead is a deputy safeguarding lead. And in few cases, you will have to escalate it to the police. We normally don't do this, but there are a few instances where we'll have to escalate it to the police or a social care as well. How is your response going to be? So the interviewer might ask, if the child tells you to keep whatever the child has told you, if the child wants you to keep it a secret, will you do that? No. You will not promise any secrecy. You will stay calm. You will listen to the child without interrupting the child. You will reassure the child that what they have done is right. You will avoid any leading questions. You will avoid questions and you will talk to the child. You will just write down whatever the child is saying as it is, and immediately you will report and record what they have said immediately and accurately. It has to be accurate. So this is your going through again 4 competencies. Recognition, you're going to recognize the abuse. You are going to record it with the date, time, without any personal assumptions. You're going to keep this information secure with you and only forward it to the appropriate safeguarding lead. As I told you, you're reporting it to the designated safeguarding lead. In some cases, if the safeguarding lead is not available, then the deputy, you're reporting it to the designated safeguarding lead. If he or she is not available, then the deputy. And in some cases, you're going to escalate it to the police as well. And the response, will you ask any questions, or will you ask any leading questions? No, you're not interrogating. You're just listening to the child in a very calm manner, calm and composed manner, and verbatim, word by word, you will write whatever the child has said, not adding any assumptions of your own. So there is a scenario here. A year 7 child in your class is regularly late and appears to be always tired at school. The child has expensive items and the child does not have many phones. So the child appears withdrawn and is reluctant to talk about his home life, friends, or what happens outside the school. So the child in this scenario, the first thing that is that the child is actually, he is regularly late. He has expensive items like a mobile phone, and then he doesn't have too many friends in the school. Now, also think that another thing that you have to notice over here is the child appears to be extremely withdrawn and is reluctant to talk. Now, what are the potential safeguarding issues here? So the safeguarding issue is that this is the recognition phase, that you're going to recognize exactly the child is coming late to the school, he's tired, he has expensive items, where he's getting the money from, is it from home or somewhere else? Is he being exploited by an older boy, men, due to power differentials? So what may be happening at home, and you may be alert to the potential for child sexual exploitation, financial exploitation, or a drug-related exploitation by an individual or a gang. What is your role in this? So here you're recording. Your role will be to record and even response. So the recording part is to write down the concern and pass anything that the child has said as it is without assuming, and then you have to, the response would be to record and then send it to the designated safeguarding lead. Be clear about what the facts are and what are the exact concerns you have here. What action will you take over here? Now take your concern seriously, write down, pass it to the designated safeguarding lead. If you still have concerns, continue to report all further incidents. If no action is taken, then you will raise it with the, who is the next person here? The head teacher. So once you have given it to the designated safeguarding lead, now you can move on to the head teacher. Let's do a quiz over here, here we are going to actually get more information about what are the actions that we can take. So right now what we know is the basic, and this basic is probably enough for you to pass any interview. That is, I would say this is enough for you, but if you want to know more, then you can stay further and probably we can do this together, the quiz. If there is a concern, we know it's the designated safeguarding lead. Who do you go to if the safeguarding concern involves a member of the staff? Then you go to the head teacher. How do you report a safeguarding concern effectively? You have to write down what the child has said for word to word and follow the safeguarding policies. Okay, you don't record it on your phone, or you don't listen and repeat it, nothing. You're just writing down everything that the child is saying. What should you do when listening to the safeguarding concerns? Definitely you're not going to keep any promise. You're not calling their parents, or you're not telling other teachers, and you're not responding emotionally as well. You're writing down what the child says and assure them that you're listening and taking this very seriously. If the child is asked you to keep the concern a secret, never. Now, this is one of a very important question that the interviewer might ask. What if the child promise you to keep a secret? You will explain to the child that whatever we are doing is for the child's own well-being, and you must report it to a member of the staff or the school who is responsible to help the child. You can't keep promises at all. If the designated safeguarding lead is not in the school, then whom do you go to? You go to the deputy designated safeguarding lead. And in the absence, you can even go to a senior leadership team member. When should a safeguarding concern be communicated? You will not wait for a day or two. You will communicate it as soon as possible. If you suspect a child is a victim of, now this is a new term, female genital mutilation. In some people do female genital mutilation as well, which is a crime here in the UK. And very, very important that you report it to the designated safeguarding lead and report it to the police immediately. Now this is something you should know. Female genital mutilation is a very important concern here in the UK. There is a question which is like, if the child is being taken out of the country for FGM, then it is again a crime. It's a crime here in the UK. What action should non-teaching school staff do if they suspect a child has been? Now we're talking about the non-teaching staff. So a non-teaching school staff is only reporting it to the designated safeguarding lead. Which document talks about the responsibilities of school staff for safeguarding children? It is the Keeping Children Safe in Education. Now I told you about the document, which is a very long document, and I have taken some information from that document, which is important from interview point of when we are attending an interview. These are the few questions which are asked, which you're already aware of and well prepared for the interview now. Which children may be particularly vulnerable? Of course, there are children with disabilities who are more vulnerable than others. You passed a safeguarding concern to the DSL and you feel it has not been taken seriously. Now what would you do? You will raise your concern with the head teacher now. What is fabricated illness? Fabricated illness is when an adult makes a child ill or pretends they are ill in order to receive medical attention for the child. Fabricated illness. Which of these statements about FGM is true? It is illegal to take a child out of the country to undergo FGM. Which of these bruises may cause you concern? Any bruise on the body is a cause of concern. It's a physical abuse, and we should take it as a safeguarding concern as well. Serious case reviews are carried out if a child dies or is seriously injured and abuse or neglect is thought to be involved. Which of these practices do not put the welfare of the child first? So everything, like identifying it and then reporting it, because safeguarding is everybody's responsibility. Information regarding children's safeguarding should be passed on, and families move areas or children move schools. So all these, they keep children first. But school not sharing information with any other agency as it's confidential is something that comes under not keeping the child first. Rather, it's just something which is not needed when a serious case takes place. Hiding information. So this is it about safeguarding, and in case if you want to know more, or there is something else that I should come up with, please let me know in the comment. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.